Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Chief Petty Officer Christian Duncan. 2026 marks 125 years of dedicated service by the Australian Army and its predecessors. Today we remember and pay tribute to Private James Stitt and warmly welcome his family who are in attendance. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Return and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Thank you. If you're able, you may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private James Stitt. James Stitt was born on the 16th of October 1902 in Adelong, a gold mining town in the Riverina district of New South Wales. The son of Ellen and George Stitt, he had an older brother, Leslie, who died at the age of 21 while serving in the 3rd Battalion during the First World War. Known as Jim, James Stitt grew up to work as a labourer and a miner, living in the town of Goolgong, a gold rush town in the central tablelands of New South Wales. Jim's father, who had worked for years as a gold miner, died in 1935. After this, Jim lived in Goolgong with his mother. With the coming of the Second World War, Jim Stitt joined the 2nd Australian Imperial Force, enlisting on the 14th of June 1940 at the age of 37. Allotted to the 2nd 18th Australian Infantry Battalion, he entered camp at Walgrove and then Ingleburn for training. In October, Stitt had his first run-in with military discipline, fined £1 for being absent without leave. The following month, he was fined again for being absent without leave, and at Bathurst in December, he was fined 10 shillings for failing to appear at a place of parade. In the midst of training, in June 1941, Private Stitt wrote home to his mother, telling her to keep her chin up. The ageing Ellen Stitt had been suffering from illness, and Jim was worried about his mother. Private Stitt embarked for overseas service from Sydney on the 1st of February 1942. During the voyage, he was found guilty of prejudice to good order and military discipline, disobeying a lawful command given by a superior officer, and using threatening language to his superior officer. Having hired a water taxi and then refused to pay the fare, the situation escalated, and Stitt was fined £4 and was forbidden shore leave for the remainder of the voyage. Arrived at Singapore in mid-February, Stitt was detached to the 8th Division headquarters, joining his unit at Kuala Lumpur. He was later evacuated with a problem with his right foot, but soon returned to duty. In October, his health problems were more serious, and he received treatment for malaria before being sent to a hospital at Malacca with mumps. After recuperating in a convalescent depot in December, he was suffering from problems with his knee joint. After briefly returning to duty in late December 1941, he was soon back in hospital with a torn medial meniscus in his knee. By then, the Japanese invasion of Southeast Asia was underway. The Imperial Japanese Army had conducted landings at Kotobaru just after midnight on the 8th of December 1941, triggering a ferocious battle with the British Indian Army and an hour before the attack on Pearl Harbor. Kotobaru Airport was occupied that morning. Sungapatani, Butterworth and Alor airports were captured the next day. The bombing of Penang began on 11th of December 1941, and British forces began retreating south. On the 16th of December 1941, the British left Penang to the Japanese, who occupied it 3 days later. Private Stitt returned to duty on the 26th of January 1942, having been reallocated to the 2nd 19th Battalion, but his health was not up to it, and he was evacuated to hospital the following day. As Allied forces retreated across the Johor Causeway to Singapore, the whole of Malaya fell into Japanese hands, and by the 13th of February, the Battle of Singapore Island was all but over. British forces surrendered 2 days later. Initially a prisoner in the sprawling Changi prisoner of war camp, it was not long before Australian prisoners of war were allocated to external work parties. The first parties was dispatched around Singapore and southern Malaya. Stitt, however, was not part of the early groups, as he was in the camp hospital being treated for dengue and dysentery. Stitt's mother died in January 1943, not knowing the fate of her son, who was then listed as being lost in Malaya. He later became part of H-Force, one of the last Labor forces to leave Changi in early May 1943. Sent to the most distant and crudest camps in Thailand to work on the Burma-Thailand Railway, Stitt and the others were exposed to the most obvious cases of the Japanese, placing the completion of the railway line above the lives of those who built it. Many of the men of H-Force were unwell before they left Singapore, and the main cause of death of Australian prisoners was illness. Malaria alone would have killed few men in the prime of life, but combined with malnutrition and ulcers, beriberi, dysentery and general weakness. It was lethal. Jim Stitt is recorded as having died of illness on the 5th of August 1943. He was 40 years old. Today his remains lie buried at Kachinburi War Cemetery in Thailand, where he's commemorated alongside 5,000 Commonwealth casualties of the Second World War. The epitaph on his headstone reads, "His duty fearlessly and noble done, ever remembered." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. Now we remember Private James Stitt, who gave his life for us, our freedom, and the hope of a better world.
If able, please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We'll remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub of Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.